Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, a watch that is just pure fun, and if you hate scratches, right up your alley. This is the Hublot Big Bang Integrated Green Ceramic. The integrated, or the integral, is a Big Bang originally launched in metal back in 2020 and in 2022 as you see it here in ceramic. The idea is that with the full integration of case and bracelet, we have something that's a little bit different in aesthetic and fit than previous bracelet-equipped Hublot Big Bang models. And at 42 millimeters in diameter, it's also in the mindset of more recent downsized Big Bangs. It's still a Big Bang, but no longer a huge watch. So the timepiece in ceramics probably lighter than you expect, as ceramic and sapphire, of which this watch is primarily composed, with a little bit of titanium. These are all light materials, so it feels almost toy-like relative to expectations. It's 42 millimeters in diameter, 13.6 millimeters thick, and if we measure end link to end link, it is 52.7 millimeters across the wrist. And because this bracelet is sort of permabound, you could see that we're going to measure that 52.7 across the wrist. If you do want to know what the case is, and just the case, it's 49 millimeters lug-to-lug. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and it wears nicely. Now, the Big Bang is always going to look like a large watch, but perhaps the further we get from my wrist and my arm, the more you realize this is not a gigantic timepiece. While it's not particularly thin, it's also not as thick as I expected, and it should slip underneath a lot of shirt sleeves and just about all jacket cups. Looking down the barrel, I actually think this watch would be fine on a wrist slightly smaller than mine. Look at the edge of the case there. I think you could wear this on a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference. The bracelet is a good-looking piece. Of course, the Big Bang Integral came out in 2020 in metal, and then for 2022 we had a combination of sky blue and green ceramic. Now this is a limited edition of 250 pieces individually numbered in green ceramic, so it's sort of a big deal. Taking a quick look, we have a lot of fingerprints because that's kind of the nature of natural materials held by human hands, but we do have a distinction between polished and brushed satin elements that creates a nice twinkle of contrast that I deeply appreciate. We don't have anything quite so simple as the quick releases on other Big Bang models. That is part of the price of integration. Though you can see we do have quite a few removable links, and it's somewhat uncommon to have removable links on a ceramic bracelet that are fixed by conventional screws. This is very user-friendly and allows you to easily size the bracelet at home, and you can see how many removable links you've got, so you have a lot of scope for adjustment. We have a titanium double deploying clasp with twin trigger release, so you do have to press both triggers for this to open up. It cannot open inadvertently or due to depression of a single trigger. Rolling around to the case is probably going to be the most familiar element. You can see there's quite a lot of green ceramic. You can also see where green polymer inserts have been used, particularly around the base of the bezel and the case flank. These have been used to create the impression that is all of one material. Now, of course, we know that some of these elements are polymer, but because of their finish and their color, they view as seamlessly integrated into the case. So integration here is not just the bracelet into the watch, but also the various elements of the watch into the whole. Now, we have little polymer shoulders on both crown and triggers, and if you look closely, you can even see that those feature a combination of polish and satination. Attention to detail is excellent. We do have a screw-down crown, 100-meter water resistance, and take note, our chronograph is a flyback chronograph, so reset and restart without first stopping. You can also see that the minutes register, it doesn't have an hours register, but the minute register goes up to 60, which I love. Now, taking a quick look at some of the subsidiary functions, you could appreciate that we do have a hacking seconds function here that will stop the watch. Push the crown back in, it resumes operation. Take a quick look inside that chrono minutes register. We have a skeletonized date disc with a quick set that allows me to rapidly cycle. We also have no shortage of luminescence. I'm going to turn the light out so you can see the watch in the dark. Easy to view, including some of the sub-registers there. Other features worth mentioning, Well, you can see that the Unico 1280, which is the second generation Unico caliber, that actually is like the original in that it's sort of inverted with the clutch and the column wheel on the dial side. So you can see the micro mesh of an unusual style of lateral clutch, and then with the little H-shaped screw on top, much like the bezel screws. Or I guess you can see this one is polished atop a column wheel structure, but all the fun elements of the chronograph that are usually on the case back of a watch are here visible on the dial side. That's your clutch, that's your column wheel. You can also see that the micro mesh of that particular clutch mechanism results in surprisingly little jump or stagger when you activate the chronograph. So they've done a good job of dialing back one of the endemic problems with lateral clutches. Also important is that the column wheel itself has excellent pusher feel, so you do get your money's worth in that regard. Now, what's interesting about the caliber 1280, it's the successor to the original Unico 1240. And the 1280 came out in 2018, a thinner movement for smaller Hublot watches. So whereas the standard Unico is 8.05 millimeters thick, which is actually more than a 7750. This one is 6.75 millimeters thick, but technically speaking, it's the same. It's got ceramic bearings for high-efficiency winding, a 3-day power reserve, a 4 hertz beat rate, flyback chronograph capability, hacking with quick set date, lateral clutch with a column wheel. Hublot declares this to be full adjusted, which I take to mean it must be at least 5 position adjusted, because that would be full for a chronometer, for example. Now, also worth mentioning is that we do have a just barely visible lightweight anti-magnetic low lubrication silicone escapement to improve the performance of the watch. And although we do have the Edicron for fine timing and beat error correction, we also have a very small rack and pinion array for ultra fine timing adjustments. Then all of this beautifully blackened for an industrial look along with some silver elements. It's 30 millimeters in diameter, so it nicely fills this large case back. So if you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.